Yes, here we go. It is the T.N.F. The bus is back. International weeks and all that. It makes it a wee bit quieter on the old bus. I've got a different excuse every time for the lack of activity. So sorry for those who have been letting down recently. We'll be expecting a few more bus arrivals than there's been of late. We'll certainly review at the end of the season and try and work out maybe a more realistic plan for everyone, because I don't like folk having expectations that we're going to be on and then there's no being on, because I know a lot of you look forward to the bus. So it feels like we're letting you down sometimes. So maybe revise a more realistic schedule. But that's all fucking stuff for the end of the season. Anyway, what is important is the T.N.F. is on again this week. And it is myself and the judge, Marc Cairney. Oh, it's happening, son. How's you?
I'm doing well, mate. Yourself? I'm glad to be back on. I agree with you. It feels like there's less and less pods now, but it is International Week. There is probably a lot of stuff that just gets repeated. I mean, I listen to all the podcasts, and sometimes I find to myself, I'm just going to start spouting the same stuff they're spouting, and people are going to get fed up with it. But we're here now, mate, and there'll be more and more pods between the end of the season. But it's just been a bad couple of weeks with the Celtic and night suit for yourself and myself. So it's hard to get things organised, but we're here, and we're queer, so get used to it.
I thought you were going to say we're here and we're always here, and I was like, that'd be a lie, because we're not always here. But we are here just now. Anyway, all that good stuff means do give us a wee like, give us a share. As always, you can slag my hair. If you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, like some of you have, £1.99 a month, totally optional. The likes of Alistair, Jack, Ali, Liam, Callum, they're all members on the bus. And it's totally optional. All the content remains free. Obviously, remember, you can go to piesports.com, use the code BUS1888. You get a tasty treat, a tasty pastry treat, you could say. 12.5% off at the checkout using that code that I just said. Anything else I need to cover? I can't remember, man. Geez, like, thumbs down. Anything else? Let's get into it. Right, okay, Mark. Celtic will be back. Connor did a brilliant show last night. Big thanks to him. The carpool continuing its success on its own. It takes balls to do it on your own. You're the only one who can also sort of vouch for that, Judge, and it is a tricky job, so good on him. He's doing really well with the carpool, and he was excited at the return of Celtic. And to be honest with you, so man, I'm guessing you'll be the same. And there's a few other things that we're going to be talking about tonight, and as always on the T.N.F., it's the night we hand over the keys to use. So remember to get your points in. Use the hashtag T.N.F. at the beginning, and we will get through as many of your points as well. But yeah, I mean, the return for Celtic comes in a strange couple of highs, and I've kind of alluded to it in the title of the show. Brendan and Calmac to head to Ibrox. Obviously, Rodgers' hearing was today, and it's a one-game ban with another game suspended ban. I never understand any of that shite, but whatever. It suits us, I think, because it means he's going to be in the dugout. How much of an impact it has, we can discuss that as well. And then there was the other one, the myth of Callum McGregor being out for the rest of the season. And then apparently Jenny McCulloch's told someone why he's now the most reliable source, I'll never know. But apparently he said that the return of Calmac is imminent. And I'm hoping that means that both Brendan and Calmac will be visible at Ibrox, and both in the roles that we accustomed them with at Celtic. And that means Brendan in the dugout, and of course Calmac in the centre of midfield. Judge, I know you've got an opinion on the Rodgers getting cited for his comments after the game, right? When he talked about the competency, and of course he wasn't aiming it as such at the referee. It was more at how the fourth official had re-refereed the game, and he did use the word incompetent. We've obviously discussed whether that brings the game into disrepute or not. You seem to be of the opinion that you thought it was fair game for him to be cited for it. I think a lot of Celtic fans are of the opposing view to that. I think when you go down those roads, there's always going to be some sort of kickback from it. My guess is, and I read this on that Phil 4 Million Surnames blog, which I was tragically reading the other day. He was suggesting, from one of his many millions of sources, he was suggesting that the job of Celtic's legal team was going to be that they were going to highlight competency across the board. So their evidence wasn't going to be based against anti-Celtic things or Celtic decisions going against them. It was going to be, here's a body of evidence of competence levels not being up to scratch. So what's wrong with calling something about the officiating incompetent when, look, the examples that we've got here that we can present to you today. At the end of the day, Libby away, they're in free fall. They've had a dreadful season. Our second best pal still in charge of them, Mark. I remember those days. Brilliant times, mate. That was out of noise.
I stand by that, Bhoycie. I still think the guy had questions to answer. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right that a manager of a football team should appear on the opposition's podcast and start calling players cute nicknames. We were getting them on to call the guy out. We told him straight away in email. We took an email. We want to ask you why you thought it was okay to do that.
Yep.
We're going to ask him what his favourite type of shampoo is because he doesn't use any. But anyway, we, unlike some people, we actually stand by what we say. But anyway, carry on what you're saying, mate.
No, you're fine. I think as well with that, I mean, it was the problem is we gave him a wee bit of notice, so it meant that when he came on, he'd have been like, what about Calmac and, KT and all that. He would have been talking. He would have used the nicknames for Celtic players to cover his arse, definitely. Anyway, we've got that game with Rodgers. We'll be missing. First and foremost, do you think the outcome today makes sense? Do you think it's a fair decision that's been made today with the 1 game ban, the 1 game suspended thing that I've already kind of ridiculed? And secondly, I want your thoughts on the impact it really does have. And if this is a big win for Celtic, that Rodgers is going to be in the dugout at Ibrox, or if it's maybe something that we're just using as a bit of a, how would you describe it? As a bit of a I don't know, motivation, a bit of a oomph that we're going, right, it's a wee small win, and we're maybe clutching at it a wee bit more than we normally would, just because the word kickstart this season we've used a million times, and we're looking now in any avenue possible for said kickstart. Over to you, pal.
Well, I think I spoke to my dad today, often day. I told my dad, I said the best outcome for both parties is nobody backs down. If it's a 1 game suspension and 1 suspended, that was my words to my dad this morning, because I thought they still made him guilty, of the sin, but he didn't miss the game at Ibrox. So both parties are probably happy there. There's no conspiracy for the SFA. Celtic fans are kind of happy medium, they're happy with that. I'd like to say that I don't think we pay the referees fees. We also pay for VAR, and we also pay for a membership to the SPFL and the SFA. So if we want to call out referees, I don't think they should be immune. Far from it. I think you should tell them straight away, you're an arsehole straight away. I was just saying, say, the rule was there and he did break it. The rule was terrible. The rule shouldn't be there. As far as I'm concerned, it shouldn't be there, but he did break it. So I think there's always going to be a comeuppance. But I think, Bhoycie, if you've been totally honest with yourself, best case scenario was he was going to be in the dugout at Ibrox, because Livingston, we tend to play tougher matches against teams that are struggling, like St Johnstone getting beat 4-0 after Stenhousemuir, then taking a point 4 days later at Celtic Park, and it's happened throughout this season. So I'm not trying. I wouldn't brush Livy aside, but I'd rather have him, and Livingston's like that smaller stadium that you could probably bark orders for the stands and still be able to hear the players. But like Rangers, Ibrox, you're wanting your Callum McGregor and you're wanting your Brendan Rodgers in that dugout. I mean, I've had a lot of nightmares about a lot of bad things at Celtic, but the reality of Darren O'Day or John Kennedy, I was going to say Jack Kennedy, John Kennedy standing in the dugout at Ibrox, and I must do or die match at Celtic against Rangers, that would give me tremors. I really would. That would. I mean, we're going up against it as it is. I don't know the fan base yet. I don't know what the allocation is going to be. That's been kept quiet, and the game's only a couple of weeks away. There's been nothing said about that, which is really strange. Normally they're out by now, so it tells me there's probably going to be 0, which is strange. But on the impact, Bhoycie, I think it's going to impact. I mean, you can't have, even no matter what level of football you're at, your manager is a focal point for direction, for advice, for any action to be taken on the park. Your manager is the man who's dishing that out, and he's got the loudest voice and he's got most authority within the dressing room. So you want him sitting there, and of course we all know. I mean, we've spoken about his tribulations this season, but he's still a very, very good manager and coach Bhoycie, you know what I mean? Whether it works with Celtic, I know is a different story, but I want to see the guy impact the game for the dugout, you know what I mean? And we need to see that. I don't think him at Ibrox, and there's also questions on his safety, let's be honest. I mean, if Physio has been assaulted there, Joe Hart getting glass bottles through at him, we've had fans getting hit with Buckfast bottles, darts, coins, and all the rest of it. So nobody's safe. I mean, they could have guaranteed Chris Sutton's safety. So, quite frankly, I would sit right in front of Rangers fans. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care what they flung at me. But I'm just saying that's the level of respect I've got for opposition at Ibrox. You know what I mean? Unless it's Hearts, of course, because they share badges now, don't they? But well, I found that a bit funny because let's not forget Hearts had an open training session last season, and over a tannoid, they played the sash by mistake. My question is, why is the sash even on the tannoids?
On the playlist, exactly.
Why is it on the playlist? And if it was an accident, whose phones it jumped off of? It's a strange one, but we all know the story with Hearts.
Bit of Tiger Tim vibes with that, isn't there?
I will. Listen, I don't care. See if somebody wants to come on the tannoid and go up there, I'm all for it, Bhoycie. But let's not pretend, you know what I mean? Let's not pretend, you know. I don't get it. Doesn't affront me, that stuff. I love all that stuff. I mean, it doesn't affront me at all. But I think, Bhoycie, just to answer your question, I think if we're going to stand a chance, you really need a captain. That's the first I've heard about Jerry McCulloch. We need a captain player. I thought he played a couple of bounce matches. He's a captain and you need your leader. Whatever guys they come in, you need them at Ibrox, and more so because the alternative would be the likes of Home and John Kennedy. And that for me,
yeah,
I've only got one heart. Don't break it.
Yeah, you've not been overly convinced with Calmac this season. That'd be fair to say.
No.
By the way, that's not just you. I'm just saying it too because we're in conversation right now. Fundamentally, I think there's a general view that Calmac this year hasn't had one of his best seasons in a long time in a Celtic shirt. I think over the piece, I would say his form has been okay, but his biggest displays have came at Ibrox, when we got the 1-0 win with that back four that some of us really need to remember how makeshift that was and how up against it we were and where the momentum was then. And Callum McGregor was given space, if you remember. Arrogant Beale thought he could just, whatever Rangers do, he never kept an eye on what Celtic do. And he played with his game plan fully focused on his own team, way ahead of his station as usual. It wasn't showing the opposition enough respect. He thought he was way further in his progress, I think, with that Rangers team than where he really was. And by giving Calmac the freedom of Ibrox, we started seeing some beautiful passes in behind that were cutting in between the centre-backs and the full-backs with ease. And even then at Celtic Park as well, I think Calmac was a definitive player in that performance and obviously that win. And I feel like he is a big boost, regardless. I think there's that old shitey saying, form goes out the window in these games and all that shite, and we get all that, right? That's fine. But I suppose you could apply the same to Callum McGregor. His form this season hasn't been great, but when it's came to these games, he's certainly stepped up so far. And that, for me, means he's a far bigger lift to being in the Celtic team than what Rodgers is being in the dugout. Albeit, I have to also bring balance to that because on the Rodgers side of things, I think he is, regardless of the season, he's been the butt of a lot of jokes and things because we've obviously dropped more points than we expected this year, struggling to get a winning sequence together at on more than one occasion this year that was of real note. But I do still think in these fixtures, particularly in fact, maybe the fact he's won the two this year even more than the ones he got last time around. He left scars last time around, and they've not fully healed. And I do think his presence on there, whilst it might not be the biggest boost to Celtic, I do think his presence is something that maybe not their players, maybe some of their legacy players, in fairness, certainly their fans, they see him and they think we're going to get beat. He has that hold on him. His old firm record is a shambles how good it is on Glasgow Derby before we get banned. It's absolutely outstanding. And I wonder from that point of view, where we need to also see the benefits of having Rodgers in the dugout also. And it's not a competition either. We're glad to have both of them available if that is to be the case at Ibrox.
Oh, without a doubt, mate. Of course. I mean, as you said, McGregor's been up and down this season, but he's still been okay. You know what I mean? And I think an okay Callum McGregor's better than a player of lesser ability playing at his peak. So he's still got that ability to change a game. And I agree with you. He performs sometimes. They're very sporadic. I feel like he grabs a game, the scuff at the neck. But when he does date Bhoycie, he makes a huge impact. You know what I mean? I remember the game at Ibrox 2 years ago when Ange was first there, and I feel like that has we burst and run into their half. I think ended up Rodgers scored the equaliser away. That won us the match, and I think went a long way to win us the title. He's capable of the moments, and you look at the Rangers team in the dugout when they in the tunnel when they look to their left and they see McGregor stand there, they see us like some sort of continuity at Celtic. They see like, okay, the main man's there, the boss is there, you know what I mean? And it's the same in the dugout. And their fans will be, I mean, no matter how many Rangers managers I've saw, there's been one or two that you're a wee bit, you know, like Walter Smith for talking sake. You knew when he was always there, no matter how bad the team was, there was always that level of expectations and that ability to do you over, you know what I mean? And Rodgers has got that. And Rangers fans, if you were a Rangers fan in your early 20s, you probably only ever saw Rodgers batter you. You know what I mean? You'd have to be unfortunately like guys at our age to see anything other than that, you know what I mean? And
to be fair though, Mark, remember as well though, Rodgers has been the victim of Rangers' goal of the season before. Remember when they beat us 1-0 and it was the Ryan Jack deflected off
God.
That won their club goal of the season.
Well, do you know
that is unreal.
I must admit, when I see Celtic draw a match or lose a season or anything like that, I don't care about moments in the match of the season. I just ignore it. I just don't want to see Celtic ever speak about it again. I'm like one of the kind of guys. That just shows you the levels and expectations at the clubs that became the moment of the season. And do you know what? It was a New Year's game. I'm pretty sure I was at the game, and we were rotting that day. And that celebration, I think, that spurred Celtic on more than anything. He thought that was the moment that Rangers just couldn't beat Celtic, and that was the moment that was going to turn the tide. Far from it. It spurred Celtic onto their second treble in a row, you know what I mean? And he saw a lot more if Rodgers stayed beyond February 2019 or whatever it is.
Was it his last derby? Was that what it was?
His last derby, mate. I think we're due to play him again.
So we're on for his third treble.
Aye. Also,
he only won 2, but I was just trying to join the dot. I'm not trying to be smart. I was like,
no.
Well, so we'd won 2 trebles. I think it was his last derby game.
Well, he saw Celtic. He saw Celtic run amok. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story.
Go on.
We beat them 5-1. Anybody that's been Ibrox, you can see the TV shows you, if it's Sky, they'll show you the Sky coverage. But we beat them 5-1. There was a lot of pressure on. It was the following game, and maybe beat them 2-1. We beat them anyway, right? And the Rangers manager was under pressure, and the camera spanned to Steven Gerrard in the crowd. Celtic fans were cheering because Gerrard had said a few good things about Celtic. It turns out about a year or two later, the story was it was at that match that he was first spoken to about coming to Rangers. I think it was Dave Susan to speak to him, but it was nobody knew that back then. But he was under pressure. The Rangers manager was under pressure at the time he came to the match, and Celtic fans were cheering him even then. You know what I mean? And nobody knew he was coming to Ibrox, but even before he came to Celtic, came to Rangers, he saw Rodgers bat Celtic, bat Rangers, and I think the Rangers fans will have that in their head. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of question marks about the Celtic squad now. I think equally there's question marks about the Rangers squad now. I think there's no been this situation before, and when we spoke before about, especially Jonathan, he spoke about would this be Rodgers' title and all the rest of it, and overcoming so many. Listen, this is where I'm coming from on that one. Just quickly, I think Michael Beale, he fooled me. He was a spoofer. I think has 3 months in charge this season. Got Celtic a 8-9 point lead. So they had to sack a manager. Celtic started the season with the best squad, biggest budget, best manager. And then 3 months later, they had a 9 point lead with all those things still intact, all those stats still intact. And then you fast forward, and then his squad, who has beat Rangers twice. Now, I'm not saying that Liam Scales and even Bernabei or Celtic quality, but see if anybody that's been a Celtic jersey, we're playing against players that I think, realistically, a lot of players are maybe League One level in England. Let's be fair, because a lot of them come to like the Conference League and all that. They get scouted by like Hearts or St Mirren, they bring them up. So that's the level of player we're playing against, really. So with all the things in play, he's still dropped all the points, Bhoycie. I think it's, for me, it's more along the lines of, if you don't win the league this year, it's shameful. It's very shameful considering the head start you had with Beale and the points taken, the squad that you had, even with the ones that you were left with, that's still better than St Johnstone. That's still better than St Mirren. And lost a lot of points for winning positions. That's a lot of that's on the manager, in my opinion. So I think there's more to it than that. But there's still a Brendan Rodgers in the dugout at Ibrox, and any Rangers fan attended the match or watching it, they will definitely have that wee shadow of doubt. And this is the most arrogant fan base on the planet, who don't ever see anything other than victory. But there will be an element of trepidation in their minds when the teams walk out and McGregor's there, hopefully, and Rodgers is there, because you flip it on our side, boys. You see, if we turned up and their captain was injured and the manager is in the stands, you do get a boost out of that as a fan base, don't you?
I agree with that. It's interesting when we speak about whether it's Rodgers' title or not, or whether how we dropped so many points. I mean, I'm of the opinion that we want to have it both ways sometimes in the debate with it all, Mark. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you actually look, I've just brought up the table for the 17-18 season. So Rodgers' second season, right? We finished that campaign with 82 points.
Right.
We are currently on something like 70.
Right.
So we win the 8 games that are remaining, takes you up to 94. Now, I'm not saying we will, but we're definitely going to win more than 12 points between now and the end of the season. I'm convinced of that.
Uh-huh.
Right? Now, that would mean we did better than a second season under Rodgers, where kind of generally described as we cakewalked it and there was no opposition. Now, see, if there was no opposition before, are we acknowledging that there is more strength in the competition now from maybe the other side of Glasgow, not the rest of the league? So take your point, you've said it before, that you think the standard's pretty poor with the rest of the teams. I mean, with that in mind, is it the fact then it's better that we go on, 71 points, Alistair Jack right in there. It's like Rain Man, straight in there with the real facts. Sorry, Alistair. 71 points, I beg your pardon, mate. We're at 71, so yeah, if we won the remaining games, takes you up to about 95. That would dwarf what we'd won in that second season under Rodgers. Now, and that is then acknowledging as well, remember, that we think this is a stronger Rangers side. This is the one that's been a European final with the nucleus of that team only a couple of years ago, that have still done okay in Europe this year, got out of a group. We think they've got a better manager in charge now than what they had before. They've had good unbeaten runs as well. So if we were to get more points against a stronger Rangers than what we did then, I mean, is it not fair to say that sometimes, you know, if the competition is tougher, then and you still get more points, then that's a win-win. I think history can rewrite itself, and it's interesting. I did not know this, by the way. I've literally looked that up whilst we've been in the show, because I thought that second season, I don't remember it being. I remember it being like everyone just going, "This is a cakewalk now." You know what I mean? Like we're cruising. I think that was you with the gold alphabet and all that. Remember?
Yeah.
And it's weird seeing that though, to think that Celtic could end up with way more points than what they did in Rodgers' second season, this season, and yet the narrative is we've dropped far too many points already. But also the narrative is it was so easy for us the last time around. Both don't quite sit next to each other and make complete sense, do they?
No, it doesn't actually, and I think when you look at it that way, it's a bit surprising. I think is it lies, damn lies, the statistics. I think sometimes they do, and it's true. And to be honest with you, boys, I think the biggest the biggest factor is your eyes. You know, I mean, you can tell straight away what you're watching. I mean, anybody can fool you. A good match is a bad match, and vice versa. And I think it's the same. I think a lot of the things we're seeing this season, it's not even about the results. A lot of it's been the performances. I've seen us winning matches and getting booed after the park. And the 1-0 when Alistair Johnson's moaning about the fans booing, that was the only time that we won a match and get a lot of stick for the fans. You know what I mean? And it was happening more often. And I've been to a few matches this year. We've been booed after the park, booed at half time a couple of times as well.
Mm-hmm.
I find the level of drive, commitment, by the players.
Level of patience though from the stands as well, maybe changed a bit. Is that fair?
The thing is, boys, see if you see that season you mentioned, see if Rangers were 1 point ahead of us, you're less happy sitting watching Celtic play St Johnstone and you're 0-0 with 10 minutes to go. You're at ease. You're at ease when it's 10 points, 15 points, or 8 points. When it's neck and neck, I mean, you're literally, you're watching the clock, and that brings this own, anxiety about it, And I think Celtic have been getting themselves up to a gallop a few times this season. Then international games come up, and I think this happened. This is the third time it's happened to us, and I'm just hoping that we've kind of the things that went wrong afterwards before Celtic have managed to look at, and I'm not convinced that's going to be the case. I think we'll find out a lot on Sunday. I mean, plastic pitch, Livingston, 25 men behind the ball. You know the drill when you go to a Bhoycie, right? I mean, and Don Robertson's referee, so who knows what the fuck you're going to get off that fucking clown, you know what I mean? And Celtic just need to, if Rodgers just talked about Celtic getting to the exciting part of the season, getting to the tickly bit, well, show us that you want to get to tickly bit. Don't just...
We all like the tickly bit.
What, we all do. We all fucking do. But I'm married, mate, so I don't know where the last time but it's true though, you know what I mean? And I think if you're sitting there watching a 1-0 v St Johnstone on a Wednesday night, you'll accept it if you're 10 points clear. But see if you're 1-0 with 10 minutes to go or 0-0 and it's neck and neck at Celtic at the top of the table, they're winning 3-4-0 at St Johnstone at Calmac, Rugby Park. You're due to be anxious. You're going to panic, mate. You know what I mean? And I think the level of opposition back then, I think there was a half decent, Aberdeen team that the guys were taking no bad there. So they were taking points now and again. We were, you know what I mean? When I don't know. But
then this is again, but Celtic still had the best team, the biggest budget, the best manager. It's all these stuff. I'm just playing devil's advocate to it. It's
a different side to it, Bhoycie. Yeah, a different side to it. But I think a lot of the complaints have been, obviously, the level of play has been really poor. But also, Bhoycie, there's been a lot of distractions this season. The manager, the board, the Green Brigade, they're back in again. They want to fight again, and there's not been any point in this season since Rodgers got announced. There's not been one stage of this season where the fans have just been like that. Right, let's go, let's get into this. And anytime it looks like we're getting to that stage, there'll be a statement by somebody. Somebody will fuck up. Somebody will do something. And even the other day there, when
you're leading me on, leading me on to my next talking point. Let me bring it in because I really want your views on this. Sorry, Mark, to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
But it leads me on pretty well. There was a bit of an uproar yesterday. The North Curves Twitter page loves a statement. A statement. But you know what? Two sides to everything. They've got an agenda of that there can be no doubt. And their agenda is they want the Celtic end, right? That's what their overriding goal is, and they want to promote their argument and give more evidence, more meat in the bone for this argument to get a standing section that takes up the full stand behind the goal at Celtic Park. They want to do that via using the women's games, where there's availability ticket-wise, but that's the reality as well. There is availability, there is room for manoeuvre where people can take seats because they're not taken up by season ticket holders and show what it can do. They want to showcase it in these games. Now, Celtic have came out and basically, via the avenues that they have, however these two parties have their dialogue, back of a crisp packet, a fag packet, wouldn't surprise me. Back of a crisp packet would be pretty tricky. Depends what kind of crisp. But I think when you look at Celtic denying them that, I'm pretty torn on it, and I don't like sitting on the fence. I'll give my forthright view on it, right? I think there's two sides. Celtic, the North Curve, are undeniably manipulating the situation of the availability of women's games and are hiding behind, oh, we're trying to promote the women's game, etc., but don't really show that much of an interest the rest of the games. It's only when it's at Celtic Park and they can get some sort of win out of it that suddenly, the women's game's at stake here and all this sort of rhetoric, or whatever it is they say. I'm paraphrasing, of course. However, notwithstanding that, I get the arguments that are not for it, like people have had seats for years. But if change doesn't ever occur, then evolution can never occur either. They both do go hand in hand, and at some point, someone needs to be upset for long-term progression. That's just life, unfortunately. And I totally get, though, where you're going, well, he's had his seat for them. Why the fuck should you move for X, Y, and Z to take over? I hear that point of view as well. But then again, if overall, as a spectacle and as an atmosphere at Celtic Park, it would be improved by this, and that is their belief, and maybe many others, I potentially think it would look pretty cool, to be honest with you. That's just a side bit. I do think it would look cool, but I understand there's things affected. But I think under the guise of women's football, they're torn, because what they're trying to do is obviously, well, that's an opportunity to go support Celtic, and then we can show what this Celtic end would look like, and we can sell it better. Totally get that. But doing it it's to the detriment of the women's game that we're trying to promote, I find a bit distasteful, because I think if it was to be more, we've now got a squad going to every single women's game of substantial numbers, and then you were getting turned away from doing this when the Celtic game moves from the Celtic women's team moves to Celtic Park for a one-off game. Then I think they've got a far stronger argument, and I do think they're picking and choosing when the women's team's actually their flavour of the month and when it's not. Albeit, I get the reasons why they would use that game to be able to showcase what the Celtic end would look like and strengthen their argument. What I do think dilutes it is the fact you're not really there all the time. You're not really that invested in it. You're not really that keen on that type of football, and therefore it's a bit false going under that sort of that rhetoric. But I do think at times being stuck in your ways is something that I associate with everything Celtic related. Being stuck in your ways, and I don't want to be hypocritical and then say, but when it comes to how the seating or the standing sections work at Celtic Park can never evolve either. That'd be foolish of me, and it'd be hypocritical. So I do get that point. But what was your take on the way they've went about this statement and the way they've expressed it, and the guise that it's sort of under, whether you think it's true, false, or whatever, about it being to the detriment sort of thing of promoting the women's team?
I don't think that's true at all. I think even if you take the full conversation to another level, I think the squad, the women's team won't be impacted on which side of the stadium the Green Brigade sit at, because Celtic have given them access to the real seating, so that they've got their access to the corner if they want it, and gone by their own rhetoric, they improve the squad on the park when they sit there at home matches, because when they were banned, they were wanting back. So I don't know how that makes the women's game more exciting or less exciting. If they're going inside the stadium, then cool, coming back a team. But I don't think where they sit is going to be a detriment or be a boost to the women on the park. I think clearly this has been a guise by the Green Brigade to try and use the women's game to promote their own ideology of how Celtic Park should look. Bhoycie, I think it would look cool and all. I think even Phil, who's going to be affected too, think it will look cool, and I think it'd be quite enjoyable. But unless you're one of the people that's told to get to fuck, then it becomes less and less cool and enjoyable. And I think you've got to reward the long time fans over the Johnny Come Latelys. I'm sorry, mate. Phil was there when Roy Dyler was bringing on youth players. We were getting beat off Inverness, Cali Thistles, etc. Mate, and I think that guy deserves his seat for as long as he. And that's another story. But I just also feel like it's a needless argument. I think the club scored an own goal, I think, by no allowing it, because I think it was such an easy thing to do that nobody would really have a problem with. It's a women's game, and if Celtic are getting no plans to do it long term, it'll still give the Green Brigade their rematch again and hopefully help the women's team, whatever it is. I don't think it promotes the women's team. The only thing it promotes is the Green Brigade's ideology and the boys' ideology. I think you mentioned it briefly there. I think, see if Celtic, if there was a presence at every match, and I said it on my Twitter yesterday, see if they were there every single week, I feel like they could be really upset by, but I know
that's the other side of the argument, isn't it? Definitely.
They could not. I could tell you, they could not tell you the Celtic women's left back, right back, or captain. They couldn't, right? I could tell you it's the Celtic's first team. They bother with even thinking. They could not tell you that, right? So they're not getting interested in women's game. In fact, there's 11,000 seater stadium over at Airdrie, and you're lucky if there's 500 fans there. So there's no level of support from the Green Brigade, which is fine. But let's not pretend, let's not pretend it's about some sort of promoting either. And I don't think they lie about it. But when they hit out with statements that it's detriment to the women's game, do you know what's a detriment to the women's game? People jump on a bandwagon to use their hard work to promote their ideology. They guys are full time. They're working Monday to Friday, who've got the same amount of passion as what the male players have, just without the talent, obviously. So don't jump on their bandwagon and reduce their hard work into some sort of PR stunt, because that's what it is, Bhoycie. They're reducing it to a PR stunt, and I think, see, right now when we're getting towards that tickling bit, as I mentioned, we don't need any more fighting, mate. We've been fighting since the minute that guy was announced. There was a story week in, week out. The fans splitting every opinion this season. The fans have been split with, and we're getting into the dying embers of this season. Yeah. There's 2 trophies to be won.
Yep.
And I think the board and the fan memberships there, I think both of them just need to shut the fuck up and let us go with the football.
Well, but here's the thing as well. I mean, I'm looking at the statement right now, so I was pausing, looked like it was on my phone. It's just because I'm bringing up the old statement there.
I don't blame you, mate, to be honest.
No, it's not that. I'm looking at the statement that they sort of released, and it says it's vindictive against the concept of the Celtic end. And do you know what? To be fair, I'm glad they're saying that first, as opposed to they're showing that, if you like their true colours. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. That is if that is your agenda and you're laying it out and it's vindictive against that and that it's not going your way. I'm glad they highlight that first. Then they say, shamefully, Michael Nicholson and Chris Mackay would prefer for Celtic's FC women to be detrimented and then have another positive advert for the Celtic end. Here's my argument to that. See, now you've not got the Celtic end. Can we presume that the standing section you currently have will be fully occupied regardless? So you
the point on it is,
and I've not read the end.
So maybe the other one.
For this reason, as well as that, it's regrettable we will not attend the upcoming. But curiously, at the end, it does. You're right. It says they won't be there.
It explains it all, Bhoycie, as you said. Explain everything you need to know. They explained it all.
Yeah.
They used it because they kind of get to use it for what we want. We're not going to go. Take the ball.
So with regards to that, I mean, when they're saying that it's regrettable we will not attend the upcoming Celtic FC women matches at Celtic Park, now, do you attend the Celtic games that are played elsewhere? I don't know. I don't watch it. So I'm just asking questions. Mark. That's what I think's a fair question to make. Is this to the detriment of the Celtic women's team if a group of supporters that don't follow them week on week aren't there, which would be consistent with their following of them this season, which means absent? So they're not really a loss as such. It's just the status quo. You just don't go. I'm not sure. I don't know if they do go or do they don't. Any member of the North Curve that is potentially watching, they probably hate the bus. That's fine. They're more than welcome to let me know if that's what they want to do. See, from an actual point of view of the ground, I've got to be honest. They've got an argument, Matt. I know what you're saying about, Phil, etc., being there for X amount of years, watching, just to play devil's advocate to it. Celtic attendances and season ticket waiting lists are at an all-time high thanks to the current generation of Celtic fans, not the previous ones. I grew up in the 90s where, 20 to 30,000 was the crowds. It was really until Mark O'Neill came in that you started seeing, holy fuck, we're a 60,000 fan base every home game with waiting lists. Then it died off. We've also went through the periods where, because Rangers weren't in the league, whether people want to hear that or not, it wasn't because Ronnie Dyler's football was so uninspiring, albeit it maybe played a factor, but the fact you're closing upper tiers on several occasions in that period really, really does watch. And that tells you that since then, maybe, there's JM just came in, he says he's been on the waiting list since Rodgers' first season, Bhoycie. He's been on the waiting list for 7 years, 8 years, 7, 8 years. The current generation, Mark, do have an argument, and this is just me, as I say, bringing balance to the debate, because I do actually take your point. Imagine upsetting someone who's shown that loyalty and invested all that money in their seat. But progression also has to happen in life, and that will mean tough decisions, tough changes at some point or other. In the short term, that'll hurt a section. For long term, a far better spectacle. If the answer for a far better spectacle is this Celtic end, that's a different debate as well entirely. But what cannot be denied is the appetite to go to Celtic games, and the amount on that waiting list right now is massive, absolutely massive. And Celtic season tickets sell out year on year. Now they want the power to bring it more in a style that they think is becoming of what Celtic Park could be, and improve that atmosphere. From that, if we just look at that in isolation, it's not the worst project to have in the world, and the world would be a boring place if people didn't come up with some sort of innovative ideas, some sort of future planning that they think can grab excitement and keep progressing what is, a stadium with memories and history like no other. I do get that as well.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I totally accept it. I think it'd be quite exciting. I don't get me wrong. I'm going to say this. I think Celtic's worst performances in Europe have came since the Green Brigade took over. We've not won one match that's been exciting since they came in 2010. All your recent history was before they came. So you could say, if you wanted to play devil's advocate, that they're actually detrimental to the women's team and the men's team when it comes to European. I don't believe that to be the case. I'm just being flippant, but
no, I get you. I hear you.
I do think that there might be another solution. I think, and what I don't get is in the stand they've chosen. I mean, if they wanted to really epitomise Celtic Park, they would choose a jungle. They would choose a jungle, which is an off stand. I think there's a lot of people in an off stand that maybe got a bit of influence in the club. That would maybe no influence within the young camp that would maybe not like it, rather than take the Jock Stein stand, which was the last stand to be built. To be fair, you know what I mean. With them all, I think when Fergus McCann built the stadium, I think we were selling 40,000 season tickets, mate, back then. I think that's just quite recently I've seen that. So we were still getting decent crowds, you know what I mean, and there was still a waiting list. I mean, even in the late 90s, no, that was hard to get tickets for Celtic matches. It really was. You know, I mean, if you watch a Celtic v Dundee in March for 1998-99, you'll not see a seat. You will not see a seat. You watch one until last year, you'll see seats around the place because there was less football on the telly, Bhoycie. Football was cheaper to go to. It was very accessible for people to go to the matches. Transport was better. Everything was better.
Is that no more credit then to the amount of numbers that still want to actively go to the games?
I think to be honest with you, anybody that wants to put their money down and buy into this campaign season, fair dues to them all. And the guys who are waiting, my pal Steve's been waiting for about 5-6 years. I know it's hard to get them, especially if you're wanting two together. It's very hard. If you're wanting just one, you normally only wait a couple of years free. But I think people will be getting a chance this season because a lot of folk been fed up with it. But to be honest, boys, like I think I've got nothing against the concept. Nothing against the concept. And the argument on this conversation, I think, is there was no need for this side story. I think it has. To be honest with you, I've been on Twitter in the last couple of days and not so much conversing, but I've been on it, and I think the impact of the statement has been very muted. I think if this happened months ago, it would have been a big, massive news story, but it seems to have fell by the wayside. There's been no legs to it.
Yeah, and you know what?
I hope this is because, sorry boys, I hope this is because in general terms, the Celtic fans have had enough this season. There's been so much there's just so much background noise this season that even the likes of myself who want a side story and wanting one, even like we're just fed up with it, boys. I mean,
I want him on. I love that. Honestly, I love it. It's interesting how that all plays out, but we'll keep an eye on it. I wonder if you're right though that the maximum impact that it was maybe designed to have is now kind of been see you later, mate, right now, because we've got a league title to win. Going like really, you know, the real focus here now is not about this bullshit when we're in an actual title race right now. Can we just put all this shit to one side? Statement o'clock can wait till we're 8 points clear again. And right now, I think everyone's just zoned in now on Libby away.
What's do you think that's embarrassing, Tabor? Can you imagine if I told you a few years ago that there's a group of fans would be releasing more statements in the club throughout a season? I mean, you'd be like, the fans are releasing statements. I mean, who do you think they are? They're not like the press secretary for the president of America. We don't need to know every opinion that you've got. We don't need to. You're influential and you've got a big colour and all the rest of it. What's next? Supporters buses coming out and having statements.
Well, this is interesting.
Just say something. Don't need to release a statement. This isn't a Real Madrid. Is it a comunicado? What do you call it? I don't know.
Yeah, I found it a bit cringe as well at times. I've said that before in the channel. I found the statement stuff a bit like, do we need to like we're turning into party political broadcasts here when we're talking about the football, you know? And is that the real way to address it? Is it going to be conducive to getting your way? I'm not convinced either. And I think the other thing, and I'll just very quickly, briefly mention it because I'm very much on the side of want to be on the right side of history. But at the end of the day, Celtic have red flagged certain things that you can do and can't do in the ground. The last thing they're going to do is multiply the target audience of their can do's tenfold. Do you know what I mean? And that's not because I agree, by the way, with the sentiment of Celtic on that. But if that's where they stand, then let's be realistic here. They're not going to go, these are causing a few issues here politically, socially, and all that stuff. We've had to have a few red cards. We've had to ban you this season. See the sports group that we banned? We're going to multiply them by 5 going forward. Oof. Not because they're right, but if that's where the board are at with them, they're not going to then go, oh, well, let's make more. Like, they're just going to multiply what they see as problems. I think the Celtic board fall on the wrong side of history with all that. That'll be proven, by the way. And I want to be abundantly clear on that. But we have to understand what their views are. And their views, whether they're right or wrong, are their views. And they're not going to want then to expand the polar opposite of what it is they're trying to achieve Celtic Park to be. And that's unfortunately where we are. So the outrage and the shock at Celtic maybe not wanting to be overly keen to give them, whether it be a women's game or not, might not come as such a surprise when you actually look at the loggerheads these two groups have been at only this season. So, and that's me just trying to be balanced on it all, by the way, because I am kind of seeing it for both ends. Anyway, Judge, we'll move on, because Gary Brown talked about a player, and he's a player that we've spoken about in the channel before that you were convinced would not be a Celtic player. Ty's going to be back soon. The run-in coming up, talking about Calmac coming back. If you've got a midfield where attack is available, do we just go and start taking risks? Risk taking, I think there's two sides to it. You'll remember as well as I do the 2007-8 season where I thought it was quite a brave midfield Strachan was playing with Donati, Scott Brown, and Scott Brown at this point being very much a marauding midfielder who I don't think his positional discipline was much at this point in time. I don't think he was signed to be that either. I think he was meant to be someone that tormented defences, broke the lines, had a trick up his sleeve. Some of the younger viewers that are watching it, they'll be going, "Are you talking about the same Scott Brown?" Scott Brown was a silky player when he signed for us. He was someone that you knew his obvious talent when he was playing for Hibs because of his dynamic style that wasn't just all about break it down and shut down opposition and being a leader. He was very much flicks, tricks, the lot. And him and Donati ended up being sacrificed for a more robust option and two players that was kind of the opposite of that. Paul Hartley, Barry Robson. Mm-hmm. And they were in there risk-averse players, but players who would pick their moments to break the lines. Both had a goal in them, undeniably, but would be first and foremost winning their key battles in midfield. I wonder if Celtic been a wee bit too conservative in their play this year. And could we see a midfield running where we go the opposite of the 07-08 campaign, bear with me, and it'd be something along the lines of McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly. Now, it sounds like a very fluid midfield. It doesn't sound like it's given that much cover, but could it give the team that wee bit more freedom, that wee bit more impetus in the midfield to get balls forward quick? Maybe more of a chance for one of Kyogo's runs to actually be met with a ball, which we've not maybe seen enough of this campaign. Is that midfield too risky for you, or is it the sort of brave sort of approach that maybe we've been missing this season? Maybe the selection, maybe through injury and suspension, I grant you that. But notwithstanding that, when everyone's available, will we be as bold to play midfield at that? Because Callum McGregor is your most defensive-minded midfielder, isn't exactly having Neil Lennon in there, is it? He's not a holding midfielder by any stretch. Those three, though, can all find a ball, find a man. They can all play brilliant through balls. They can all zip the ball about quick, and they all will take risks, I think, with the ball. McGregor the least, but not because he plays safe every pass that he makes either. It would be brave. But is it maybe, again, we'll use that word, is it maybe the fresh impetus that this side would need if Hatate were to be fit, keep running?
I get what you mean. I feel like the midfield has been a bit stop-start all season. It's been kind of changing all the time. We need a wee bit of stability in there. And I think Callum McGregor, I think he's a number 8. Even when he's playing number 6, he's a number 8, Bhoycie. I agree with you. I don't think he's very defensive at all. He's got defensive abilities and he does that job pretty well, but he's a number 8, and really, let's be honest, even when he's number 6, he's number 8. I think the midfield will flow a bit more now. We've got hopefully Kuhn, Johnson, and Carter Vickers. That's the most important part for me, because see if they free on the ball, and we're going to have a bit of width. That pass for Carter Vickers to Johnson, then to Kuhn, fast football, that's going to open up the play for Celtic. It's going to open up the pitch. I mean, our biggest problem this year has been our width. Midfield has been a bit of a worry for me, so is defence, but our biggest problem has been our width. And I think you can only let your O'Reilly and your Hatates and your McGregors express themselves when you've got good wide players. Otherwise, they're creating nothing, boys. They're running into brick walls. You know what I mean? They're getting the ball out left and right, and the first instinct is to pass the ball backwards.
Sideways or back, yeah. Totally agree, mate.
And I think, that's probably been detrimental with guys like McGregor's season. And I think you noticed at the last match we played there, I mean, Carter Vickers was getting the ball fast, and he was getting the ball to Johnson. Johnson's playing a lot better now that he's got somebody in front of him who's capable. And I feel like that it's the same way. I mean, even when you go to when you had Starfelt, Taylor, and Maeda, who was, or a Jota, if that trio wasn't working in unison, then the midfield, they suffer as well. You know what I mean? So I think the biggest problem for Celtic isn't about team selection in midfield, although McGregor's important to me. I think it's about getting it right. You know what I mean? It's about getting that when we're getting the ball up there, who's making the runs, who's on form, is the ball moving fast enough? Because I don't think at any point in this season Celtic have been dynamic enough for a period of time. So I think the midfield only really works if your width is working. And Taylor and Yang or Maeda, Kuhn and Johnson, they're just as important to me as your midfield three, because, as I said before, if these guys are on their game and they're passing the ball left and right and the ball's coming back to them, then the creativity stops, Deed Bhoycie. That's when you go, David Turnbull, come on, score a 25-yarder. That's when you're calling it for somebody to break the lines that would score bounce. And that doesn't happen very often, especially when you've got games at Livingston, when you got a small pitch, very narrow. You're going to need to get as much players, much width as possible on that pitch. And see, no matter how dynamic your midfield is, there's not always going to be that moment of magic pass through to your striker who has to be on form to finish the game, because your midfield is only as good as your width, I feel, because unless you've got somebody who can do a Scott Brown, as you mentioned, and he was more dynamic back in the day, who's going to run 30, like for instance, the best one I've seen it doing it is Stan Petrov. He'd run the ball 30 yards, 1-2, before you know he's in the opposition's box with the keeper to beat. We've not got that type of player just now. I think Riley threatened to do something similar at one point, but we've not got that. You know what I mean? And
Petrov's engine was superb, but he was equally good defensively. I thought maybe not as good as he was going forward, but he knew his defensive responsibilities as well.
Yeah.
He had a bit of dig about him, and he was one. You talk about those runs forward to Petrov. What I liked was if the move broke down, he was 30 yards back, mate, and amongst trying to break up. Whether he was trying to break up the counter attack or not, he would be in amongst it, and that's always felt he was definition of that sort of box to box. You're spot on. Anyway, that is us just nearly an hour. It has been fantastic to have the judge on the bus for the T.N.F. Really enjoyed that one tonight, mate. I've got my mate's birthday, so I better boost because I did say
it. My bat is going to have got 1% on my.
Oh shit!
That's right, mate. If we make it, we make it.
Anyway, thanks to everyone who's watched. Remember, give us a wee like, give us a share, slag the hair, and keep your eyes on the bus. See you there.